more on income inequality in the U.S. and globally. We're joined by Nurul Aman. He's the senior lecturer in economics at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Michelle. Glad to be here.
Well, glad to have you. Not so glad about these developments, though. U.S. income inequality has now reached pre-war Europe levels. Now, historically, that is the highest it's trended. The last time this measure of inequality was this high was in the 1930s, and before we had a quick and major readjustment in the 1940s. So this is quite a significant development. What are the reasons for this?
From 1930s to 1979, it was okay. It was improving. But I would go back to 1980s. What happened in 1980s, the supply-side economics instituted by the then President Reagan was the main reason. So two things happened during that time. One was under the supply-side economic policy, they lowered the taxes for the richest Americans and corporations significantly. That was historic low. And that never been raised, that they continue to decrease the taxes. And that brought wealthy people more wealth. And other thing is that on the bottom side, they diminished the bargaining power of the labor union. So bargaining power of the labor union is gone. That was also part of the package. So two things happened at the same time. Lower level people didn't get enough raise, and upper level people got more money and more money. And
well,
corporations
is it fair to say
also,
that bargaining power of the unions is gone, perhaps diminished, but certainly not gone?
What I meant is that their power is gone, is significantly diminished. And if you look at between Europe and America, only 12 to 15% of total workers are union members in America. In Europe, they're 98 to 99%. Even in Germany, 99% workers have bargaining power. And we are actually... Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned the dateline of 1979, 1980, and since 1979, U.S. productivity has increased by more than 90%, but the income of the typical family has increased by less than 8%. So how is that happening? Is that again because of taxes and labor unions? And what are the consequences of this trend?
Two problems here. This kind of institutionalized income inequality, it has been institutionalized. And this institution is very difficult to break. And that consequence of that comes two things. In poverty goes up, because when income inequality goes up, poverty also goes up. Now 14% of Americans live below poverty. And over time, productivity of the workers goes down because majority workers get paid less than they should be based on the productivity, so they don't have enough incentive to work with the low wages. So in the long run, productivity goes down, and that brings lower standard of living, and that creates tension in the society and workplace, and political tension, civil unrest, and we have seen that in many places. So
you have these data points, but at the same time, there's another counter to this, and that's that U.S. household wealth reached more than $77 trillion in the third quarter, and that is a record high. From an asset perspective, isn't it clear that Americans are doing better now than ever before? How does one reconcile these two diverging data points?
Well, better in a sense that overall, but when you look at the distribution of the income, majority of the people are not doing better. Because if you look at the inflation rate over the last 3 decades, that gone up total over 30%, but people got paid like 5%, 6% more. So if you look at the inflation rate and other aspects of cost of living, people living standard did not go up. They'll just live on credit cards. That's the whole thing.
Stepping away from the U.S. very quickly, which other developed countries have the worst income gap divide other than the USA? Where else are we seeing this in the developed world?
Developed world, I don't see that much income inequality in Western European countries or Australia, but I don't see. I think that U.S. has the worst record compared to other developed countries in terms of income inequality. I really admire the social and tax policy in European countries. They are doing pretty well. But if you look at developing countries, that's a different issue.
All right. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get into the developing countries. We'll have you back on again soon. Thank you so much, Nurul Aman.
Thank you, Michelle.
Senior Lecturer in Economics at the University of Massachusetts, Boston.